and accessible because of those cool elements, but also because there was a thriller at the core of it. And so that kind of gave me the courage to go out and, pretty much within a year from that we were in production.
Well, if we start with a clip from quite early on in the movie, perhaps we can then talk about how some of your signature directorial styles and features are embedded in the early work. We can start with the first clip from the Pie, that would be great.
It's embarrassing. I don't want to see that. During the clips, I think I'll step outside.
That's a very interesting response.
It's a long time ago. I don't know. It's like looking back at your old stuff. It's very strange. I haven't seen it in, I don't know how long. It's very. I mean, I saw Requiem for the first time, and I saw it recently, and for the first time probably I've seen it in 10 years or whatever, 8, 9 years, because we're doing a Blu-ray of it, so we had to check that stuff, and I couldn't even recognize the filmmaker who made it.
So do you recognize the person you were then, or do you just
I just recognized mistakes and just how embarrassing it is.
Who were your influences at the time?
Wow. It's hard to remember. I was inspired by a lot of the, as I talked about, the American filmmaking scene. That was, the independent filmmaking scene that was going on. But direct influences for the film, I don't know, was it just a collection of ideas that had been going on that I had sort of been developing in my head for a long time. So I'm not sure exactly where, it's hard to remember where I was contextually, but it was, there were just a lot of ideas going on that I had been developing for all the way from when I started working in film. Like the film montage thing that's in there, which eventually became this whole big thing in Requiem. Just an idea I had with the project, a short film that I had done in film school, had a problem about how to show repetition, and so I developed that as an idea, and it just became, I just grew on it. So I don't know. The black and white came out of. It was just, I realized I didn't have the money to sort of make something cohesive in color. And so I thought black and white would be easier to stylize. So, I don't know where, it was probably just a hodgepodge of a lot of stuff that was coming together.
And he was a very close friend.
Yeah, Sean was a guy, Sean Roulette, the star there. I met the first month of university, and we just were good friends, and he, for about 6, 7 years after school, that we were friends, he had been working on a magazine that basically happened to be falling apart right when I moved back to New York from my adventures in Los Angeles. And so he was the one actor I knew that was available, and he had been an actor in school. So I just took him out and to Chinese food and told him I had this idea. I wasn't really sure what it was, but I'd like to collaborate with him on it.
It's very visually audacious, and that visual confidence, I don't know where that came from, if you were always someone who wanted to express yourself visually, as well as narratively, or whether or not the whole form content debate was...
Yeah, I think it came out of, I mean, all of the stylistic choices we made at the time were based on having narrative reasons. We wanted, if we were going to use a camera, it wasn't just going to be for style, it was going to help to express some of the emotion of the piece. I sort of more, I sort of trying to be an impressionist painter as opposed to a realist painter was the idea. And I think, Maddie, the DP, at one point said we were, it was kind of like wild style graffiti, which both of us were influenced because we both grew up in urban settings, and I think that was definitely something. It was definitely just trying to create a visual language and using every setup to help tell the story in some way.
Puzzle is something that interests you.
Puzzles?
Yeah.
Why do you ask that?
Well, because your films are full of puzzles, and it takes a certain kind of mind to want to unfold that in public, which is what you seem to do. So I'm just curious.
I very much like puzzles, and I always cheat on them now, so not really good. I always go to the end of the maze and work backwards, but and I usually give up pretty easily. So I don't actually know if I like them. Maybe I like the idea of them.
But in terms of, and I partly asked that also in terms of the nature of storytelling and when you're constructing a story, whether you think in terms of drama and action and having a narrative that works, you need to be unfolding a puzzle or mystery of some sort in any genre, just in order to enable the story to have a dynamic moment.
Sure, I agree with that statement.
And story, sound design and production design, and the crew of people who you worked with for the first 3 films anyway, it'd be good to know how those relationships emerged and how much they contributed from that point on to the crew in the next 3 pictures.
Well, it was, I'm a very loyal person, and I really believe in collaboration and putting a team together, because filmmaking, directors get a lot of the credit when it works and a lot of the blame when it doesn't work. But I think it's totally a team, and there are things that hopefully you work with people that inspire you and can bring things that you can never bring to the table yourself. But really the people that worked on this it was a ragtag group of who I could throw together. There was no money to pay anyone. Everyone worked for a piece of the film. And I own as much a pie as every grip and PA on the film.
Did they make money?
Yeah. Everyone gets checks now. The film's finally in profit 8 years or 9 years after it's been out.
And these people
This is
are part of the reason why.
Yeah, absolutely. But so like every 4 or 5 months, everyone gets like a $1,500 check. But there were a few people we couldn't find because it really was a ragtag group. And there was one guy, Trevor, who was from Bushwick, Brooklyn, who was our key grip, who had never gripped on a film. He just got that title because he was willing to walk through a wet basement with cables one day. And he married a Japanese girl and disappeared, and we just found him, and we gave him like a $20,000, $30,000 check, because all those $1,200 checks saved up. And it was a really emotional experience for him because it meant a lot. So there's actually 2 more people who are missing that we're still searching for. But the team, everyone sort of was by happenstance, and Maddie, the DP who shot Pi Requiem in the Fountain and is now working on Iron Man 2 with Mickey Rourke, he was one of the first guys I met at film school. I sat next to him. He was a young guy. He was the youngest DP, and I was the youngest director at this graduate program, and we just became friendly. And Eric Watson, who's the producer on those first 3 films, was also the youngest producer, or one of the youngest producers. Clint Mansell, the composer, which I'm guessing Clint fans, I hope here. Right? Yeah. Clint had broken up from the Poppies, Poppy itself, and was dating a girl and living in New York, depressed, miserable, directionless. And the girl was a woman named Sue, who Eric knew from the music video world, who we brought on to be the music supervisor. And she was like, hey, how about having my boyfriend write some music? And I met him, and he was this really shy, nerdy guy. And I gave him a chance. And one day, when we were depressed, he came over, and I said, can we play us the theme song? And it was on a cassette. That's how long ago it was. He took out the boom box and put the cassette in, and it was the or whatever it goes. And we were all like, yeah, this is great. And so then he became a composer after that. The sound designer, Brian, who is now doing all these huge films, was working in Sue's office as the PR person. She's like, there's this really weird guy who does PR. And I went to his house, and he had this. He's a very odd guy, Brian. He'd be happy if I was saying that.